Hi there, Vanessa Warwick of Property Tribes TV, and today I'm going to be talking about LHA and LHA tenants and tenancies with an expert, and that is the LHA expert himself, John Paul of CastleDene Group. So welcome, John Paul.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Now, I have to confess that LHA is not an area that I as a landlord have ever got involved with. To be honest, I've always steered very much clear of it, perhaps because I don't understand it. So what are the benefits of renting to LHA tenants as opposed to private tenants?
Right, there's a couple of generalisations. First one is LHA is normally higher rents than private renting, and there will be pockets, the same as everything else. There will be pockets of areas where that's not the case, but as a rule, LHA tenants are higher rents. The second reason is that if you do it correctly and you do it right from the start, you can get direct payment, and it's pretty much guaranteed. With professional tenants, they can lose their jobs, the normal sorts of things. So if you do it right from the start, it could be quite an excellent cash flow sort of strategy for your portfolio.
But do you see that with the recent government cuts that the LHA is still going to be higher rent value than private tenants, or is that going to change?
No, it's going to change because it's going to be reduced by anywhere between 7 and 10% on a whole. But as a strategy, it's still going to be a lot more profitable in certain areas. We've done the calculations based on pre-cuts and post-cuts, and it's still considerably high, up to 30% in some areas in our particular area, higher than private rents. So as a general rule, we're still going to go ahead with it. We've just got to take on board what the government are trying to do and just adjust our strategy accordingly.
I think you hit the nail on the head then as well, that it suits certain areas.
Yeah.
And for instance, we're in County Durham at the moment, an area that you know very well. You invest yourself in the area. What sort of properties are popular with council tenants, LHA tenants in this area?
In this area, it's basically your standard 2 and 3 bedroom terraced houses and end of terraced houses. We have got a town next to us, which is Peterlee, which is a new town, which has newer buildings and newer properties, but there is still a large proportion of those which are DSS tenants. So in the main, it's your smaller properties. We do have the odd 4 or 5 bedder that does have DSS tenants, but to find the larger families in the little villages such as Easington, Peterlee, Blackhall, wherever we are in County Durham, it's a lot harder to find those tenants.
So if I was a landlord thinking of giving you my properties to rent out, and I was nervous about renting to LHA, maybe because I think they might be more high maintenance, what would you say to me?
They're not really. It really depends on the quality of your property. The quality of the property will determine the type of tenant you get. I don't mean between DSS or professional, but it has a lot to do with the standard of tenant you're going to get. If you've got a 2-bedroom house that's in the worst street in the worst area and you don't do the repairs, then there's only a certain type of tenant you're going to get. But if you've got a decent house in a decent area and you've done it up to a good standard and you as a landlord are good on repairs, then you will attract a combination of both tenants, and you can pick and choose who you want. This as an area, this is predominantly DSS or LHA. So really, it doesn't really matter if you've got a 2-3 bedroom house that you've done up fantastic, or you've got a 2-bedroom shack. Really, you're probably going to get a DSS tenant. So it's all about getting the right DSS, the LHA tenant as well. And if you put the appropriate procedures and credit checks, and you monitor the situation as well, it can prevent a lot of the upheaval and a lot of the heartache and arrears that some landlords associate with LHA tenants.
Sure. And you've got a very in-depth knowledge of LHA law, I guess you could say, or procedures. In fact, we could almost say you've made it your business to know that. So you've actually consulted with the local councils on transferring from DSS to LHA regulations and so on. So you can presumably help landlords master or benefit from LHA by helping them find the right tenants.
Definitely. We were talking earlier on that we had a landlord with 4 properties that came across last week, and we increased his cash flow by £200 per calendar month in 20 minutes. And that's not a boast that we can't back up. We have got the facts and figures. It was just the existing letting agent didn't know the LHA rates, and we've increased them in line with those LHA rates, and he's enjoying a nice healthy increase in the cash flow. But if landlords come across, we do a portfolio review, we see what rents they could be getting. We are aware of the cuts that are coming in April, so we don't want to over-egg the pudding, so to speak, and charge too high rents and therefore leave the tenants in arrears. But we work with the landlord, explain the cuts and explain the differences between private and LHA, and then ultimately we do leave the decision with the landlord. We can advise as best as we can, but it is the landlord's property and it is their decision.
Sure.
But it does work well. It's a collaboration between landlords and letting agents.
Of course, and the CastleDene Group, your ethics really are to give the landlord the best possible advice, but you also totally subscribe to treating tenants with respect and so on, don't you? You're very understanding of their situations and so on, and how to make the most of the LHA situation. So that's something that you can bring to the mix as well, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. You've got the landlords who are your clients, but a lot of letting agents and landlords really forget that your tenants are your clients as well.
Totally agree.
You can't have one without the other. And just because they're not working, or it's a single mum with 3 children, doesn't mean it's any different from a doctor and a lawyer with a child or anything like that. We treat them exactly the same. I mean, you've seen some of the comments we've had on my Facebook page about helping people, tenants and what have you.
Yeah.
So we do treat them exactly the same. This place at Christmas is just tins of roses and flowers off the tenant saying thank you very much. It's unreal. So it's definitely a case of treating one the same as the other.
And I guess to finish, we could say that you have very much got a vested interest in this area because you come from here, you live down the road, you've got properties in the area yourself, you know this area inside out, and I think that brings a lot of credibility to what CastleDene offers because you've got such in-depth knowledge, and you love to share that, don't you?
I do, yeah. With what we are predominantly quite decent at, there was nobody helping me. So there's nothing precious about what I know. There's not a secret book or secret mantra that I found that I can't share it. I love helping people and I love sharing it. So yeah, if I can help, I definitely would. And if anybody needs any advice on LHA or how we've achieved so much in such a short period of time, I'm more than happy to help and share that knowledge.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for those insights into LHA. Certainly, it's an interesting topic. A lot of landlords, as I said, do steer away from it because they don't really understand it. Put myself in that category. So it's very interesting to hear positive things about LHA and how to get the most out of it, I suppose, because it's a definite strategy, and I know a lot of people do use it. So thank you, John Paul.
Thank you.
That's John Paul, Managing Director of the CastleDene Group, and thank you very much. You've been watching Property Tribes TV.